you might not see 2026. So guys, I'm going to talk about the Deagle report that was out, last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was. And it reported that there was going to be a massive depopulation next year, 2025. Now, obviously, that's a few months away. And a lot of people are starting to talk about it more in the prepper community and in the conspiracy theory community. Now, the conspiracy theory community is large, vast, and out of control, if you ask me. Some of the theories that are out there are just insane. Some of them I like listening to. Even the most insane ones, I'm intrigued. I'm like, that's interesting. Nope. But this one seems to be getting talked about more because, one, we're right around the corner from 2025. Two, the Deagle report put up a chart of countries that were going to lose a certain amount of people, whatever that number was. The United States losing, I think, 200 million or something like that. And then other first world nations losing a lot of people. Tanzania looked like they lost all of their people, according to the chart, or just about all of their people. So you have this conversation growing. And then I started doing research on it, and I spoke about it. I think I spoke about it earlier this year or last year, and I wasn't super convinced, but it's still in the back of my head. All right. So now I don't dive deeper. I just look it up again. And, of course, the Deagle report states that 6 billion people were going to disappear off this planet. And that the WEF, World Economic Forum, was responsible for this 6 million people disappearing because Klaus Schwab stated so. Now, according to my research, and I could be wrong, Klaus Schwab never said 6 billion people were going to die. But there is a catch, and I'm going to get to that catch in a little bit. So now, he doesn't state it. And listen, guys, I don't think that the WEF would ever state anything like that. Even if this was true, I don't think they would outwardly say, yeah, man, we're going to kill 6 billion people. Or 6 billion people are going to die, and we don't know how. There is no way on God's green earth that these people are going to show their cards. They're just not. And I'm tired of like a lot of these conspiracy theory sites that are right-leaning, and I don't think they're right-leaning. I think they're CIA or Russian bots setting up these websites that are fake, so we start this conversation a little crazier. So, of course, 6 billion people are going to disappear. As it right now, I think we have 8.3 billion. If 6 billion people disappear from this planet, we are left with 2.3 billion people, which is nothing, which is actually more room on this planet. But I don't want to get into that because I'm not a people person. So when I think of 6 billion people disappearing, I'm like, that's a lot of apartments that I could, live in, provided I survive this. But here is the catch. I think it's livescience.com or .org, whatever it is. They had an article stating that the population will drop to 6 billion people, that we will max out at 9 billion around 2050 and then start to decline down to 6 billion. Not that 6 billion people are going to disappear or die. And so when I started looking at the article and I started looking at the numbers and I started looking at what was left of the Deagle report, I'm like, somebody read it wrong and ran with we are going to be left with 6 billion people. And that can easily be confused, because when I looked at the article, initially I thought the same thing. I'm like, holy shit. Then I looked at the article and I stared at it and I'm like going, okay, I see where the translation was lost. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe this person just jumped the gun and said, fuck it, 6 billion people are going to die. 6 billion people are going to be left. So that means 3 billion people between 2050, where the population holds to a grind, where the population just stops growing. And in a couple of years, and then it goes back down to 6 billion people left on this planet. So 3 billion people are going to die off. And 3 billion people, and possibly more, it could be 4 or 5 billion people dying, because that math could be wrong, but all because of water resources, food, and just resources in general are why the population is going to decline, according to the Life Science article. And there was a couple other things in there, like disease and things of that nature. There's too many people, more diseases, too many people, less medical help. And a lot of the third world countries are going to feel the brunt of that. All right. But with all of these viruses that they're trying to scare us with all these diseases, these recall in food, the lack of water being poisoned, if you will, right? Because there's always a train derailment or some kind of pipe burst leaking into somebody's water source. So all of that going on, there could be something there with the population decrease, especially here in the United States. So again, this video, is for more clarification and maybe to open up your mind to maybe that person fucked up. The Deagle report is why I think they pulled it off the internet, because they kept a lot of their reports up there, and then they pulled this one, and they pulled this one, according to a lot of you guys, really fast. They published it, and then they pulled it off, and I think they did their research and go, shit, we might have gotten this wrong. All right. Now, even if they didn't, let's just say a WEF agent who is a turncoat saw this chart, released it to the Deagle report, and they knew who exactly the rat was in the WEF and outed him by putting out this fake report that's probably not even real. Or it could be real, and they could be setting us up for some great pandemic. But they mentioned, again, in the Life Science article, they did mention disease ailments. They didn't really say pandemic, or maybe they did say pandemic, and then they said food, water, resources, and things of that nature. So again, with all of that going on, there could be something there, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic, because if it's going to be that drastic, the only thing that's going to take out 6 billion people, dropping its population down to 2 billion people, or rather 3 billion people, the only thing that can get us to those numbers in that amount of time would be a nuclear war, and an all-out nuclear war. We're talking about a global event, or another pandemic at a global status that's killing, I'm going to say, at least 50% mortality rate. The virus has to have a 50% mortality rate to get us there. Hell, it could have a 90% mortality rate and get us there, or even lower. Now, the World Economic Forum has mentioned in the past about depopulation. Bill Gates has mentioned depopulation numerous times in different venues. He's mentioned this. The World Economic Forum has spoken about this. Klaus Schwab, in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, has talked about this as well. So there is something there, but I don't think it's going to be as drastic as the Deagle report made it. And even if it is going to be that drastic, it's going to take a few years to get there, because unless, again, a nuclear war or pandemic breaks out, those two, to get us to those numbers of 3 billion people left on this planet in a year's time, that's a lot. That's a lot of devastation on a lot of bodies. So again, I'm just doing this video to keep people's mind open that maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it is what Life Science reported, and that the population growth stops at 2050 and then starts to decline over the next year or two back down to 6 billion people. So that means 3 billion people are going to disappear within that time period, whatever that time period is. Anyway, guys, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.